Hey everybody, it's Darren here at the Blink Podcast. Hey, it's so good to have you on board today. Hey, I've got such an exciting day because I don't know whether you know it, but today is Perception Day. That's right. It is Perception Day because what we've been seeing out there in the market, both sides of the ditch, is that there's been some real changes in the way people are perceiving the environments. And what we wanted to do today was just have some discussion about exactly what we're noticing happening out there in the marketplace and how you can, one, take advantage of it, but also make sure you don't slip down that deep, dark hole of troubles and woe. But before we get into that, I just want to bring in my good friend from across the ditch, my good mate, Jonathan Creek. Jonathan, how are you, mate? Good to see
Very
you.
good, Darren. Welcome to Perception Day. Troubles and woe.
Oh, my
mate.
goodness. How crazy. We've just been having a chat and we've just been looking at each other going, what is going on out there? This is crazy stuff.
It's a real era of information war, isn't it?
Yeah.
It really is
Yeah.
an information war. It's like, if we look at the industries that we deal with, it's the industries fighting back against the narratives being set by mainstream media. And it's sort of new because, well, it's new for it to be effective because these industries can now broadcast their own message. So in the past, they'd have their, let's say the Real Estate Institute would disagree with the doom and gloom of an interest rate and how it's going to, the mainstream media would be saying it's going to smash and crush the market and it's all over and there's going to be people living in their cars. And there may be on the edges, but not at the mass level of hype that they're pushing.
Yeah.
And the Real Estate Institute would maybe frame up a media release and fax it out, and it would be never to be seen ever again. But they'd say, well, we did what we could do. Yeah. Nowadays, they can broadcast their own message. And yesterday, particularly here, I didn't quite see it in New Zealand because I don't think you had your rates go up yesterday like we did.
No.
Or the day before.
Ours was last week.
A whole lot of real estate industry people sort of came out at the same time with their own live streams and their own videos and their own commentary about this is ridiculous. We've had a 0.5% interest rate rise, the first one since 2000. Life would be better if they didn't happen, but inflation's running out of control, driven by exorbitant energy prices because there's an agenda in the government to go greener before we're ready to go greener at a more affordable price.
Yeah.
I think we want to go greener, but it's just, if you're going to do it now, it's going to cost you more. And so that's driving things. And the perception is that the world is in doom and gloom and we're heading into a recession, probably already in one. And, things are going to get real ugly.
Yeah.
Well, the truth of the matter is essentially we've just returned to mid-COVID scenario in rates and prices, and you know what, everyone was pretty happy then because over the last 18 months, back then they'd had 18 months of property price increases, and I think some houses were going up 40%. And I think that's the truth of the matter is, yes, it's happening, but the value of your house is outstripping the increased cost of money. So you're still in front on a net basis in property.
And that's why I love the topic for today being Perception Day, because it is framing that perception of what we perceive to be happening in the marketplace versus what is actually happening. And I mean, we're seeing it over here, mate. We are really in the turmoil of COVID. We are actually have COVID now. So we've spent probably 2.5 years being scared of COVID or worried about COVID, but we've actually got COVID now, and in many situations we've got people getting it, some cases for the second time, and we've got businesses around New Zealand that are running on skeleton staff, and we've got people that are, obviously, and it is causing a real drama. So this is the piece where just being able to understand the differences between, hey, what is perception, what's reality, and how do we look at it, protecting and looking after our own personal businesses. And I think that's something that we really got to get our heads around.
Yeah, I think out of everything we talk about today, I'd like to put this little asterisk precursor. I think the most real and hardest thing for people to be dealing with, particularly in medium to small business, is staff shortages.
Yeah,
Because
agreed. Yep,
every day you're waking up as a boss or a business owner and you're too scared to look at your phone because you don't know who's not coming in today.
yep,
And all of a sudden you've
yep,
gone from having 20 staff to 16, and then the next day after that you're down to 14, and then it just gets lower and lower and lower. And maybe you can do that for the first week and get through it and survive, but if you end up having to do it for a month, and when we had COVID in our household, we tried to all get it at once to get it over and done with, but it actually
yeah,
probably still took 3 to 3.5 weeks for us to be back to normal
yeah,
in a way. So
yep,
you put that into a business with 40 or 50 staff, you could be dealing with this issue consistently for 3 to 4 months, and that's going to be
yep,
exhausting.
yep.
And
Be careful what your perception is.
but the perception, I think this is the one asterisk clause, right? Is that we
Yep,
recognize that that scenario can be exhausting, and your perception of
totally.
this is a pain or I'm tired of this is correct. But
Yeah,
there are other
that's
perceptions. There are other
yeah,
perceptions out there that we feel in our
yeah,
pre-production meeting. We feel that and maybe getting hold of people and influencing them too much. They're being maybe too soft to the narrative of society. They're letting
yeah,
other people's concerns or other people's projections to influence them too much.
yep,
And we want to
definitely.
give you some strategies today here on Blink on how to set the course in a way to keep a level head and put context to what's being discussed and why people are saying it in the way they're saying it.
Yep, agreed. Yep.
All
Tell
right.
me about interest rates, mate, because I reckon that's the first one that we need to be thinking about is that
Yes.
whole interest rates and inflation rates. Because I know you're in Australia, we're going through it, and we are here as well. And this has been really talked up big time, having
Interest
a
rates was
real
interest rates was really, really interesting when the Reserve Bank of Australia came out the other day. Being in the media previously in my other life, I started to pick up about 10 days ago that there was this real narrative that they were priming us for something.
yeah,
They were prepping us. The stories were leaking out in both sides. We've got two sides of media here. We've got Fairfax and News Corp, probably similar to you guys. And
yeah,
both sides were starting to lay the foundations of a shock announcement. Like they were trying to just numb us to it. And it was pretty responsible to that point. But on the morning of the day, the headlines changed, the language started to change. It was words like jumbo, shock,
yep,
devastation, all this shock and awe, George Bush type language.
yeah,
And I sort of picked up on it. I thought, right, at 2 o'clock this afternoon, there's going to be a storm here.
yeah,
They're 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 pushing for a storm because that gets some clicks and views on their websites, and that's how
totally.
they make money. The
Yep,
other thing, and don't underestimate this, Darren, and some people on the podcast may say that this is a conspiracy theory, and I love a conspiracy theory. I've
no,
started a
you
few
and conspiracy theories. No, Jonathan,
I've
stop
started a
it.
few in my day, but listen to this conspiracy theory. Who pays mainstream media? Who makes their money? How do they make their money?
Advertising,
Yeah, who are the biggest advertisers in the country?
government.
Government and
Who'd be the next biggest?
the banks.
Yes, true.
Right.
Yes, they
So you
are.
got the government and the banks. The government's just changed here, so the coffers are dry. They're still working out where the money is. The mainstream media has
Where
made
it
a
goes.
fortune out of them with all the COVID advertising and health responsibility advertising. So the next ones they need to help make money out of are banks. And when do
Yeah.
banks make money?
When interest rates go up or down.
On transactions. When people
Yeah.
change. And when interest
Yep.
rates go up and down, what do people do?
Change transactions. Do transactions.
All right, they check their mortgage and change their
Yeah.
mortgages. And
Yeah.
that generates a whole lot of business inside a bank. And
Yeah.
so,
Absolutely.
the conspiracy theorist in me is like, okay, the mainstream media wants to get a whole lot of clicks through their
Yep.
advertising. Plus, they want to help their mates who keep them alive by
Yep.
maybe, hey, go to this mortgage health check calculator, and happens to be on the Commonwealth Bank's website. And when you're on the landing page, the Commonwealth Bank's got all the banners.
Yep.
There's driving activity. Now, don't underestimate that these people sit in boardrooms and they engineer this stuff. Like, it's not that many steps away to work this out.
So if that's the case, and we've got it, because this is the part that and we have it here, is as soon as we get this beat up, we get this whole push that interest rates are going up. It's going to be we're going into a deep depression here. There's going to be mortgagee sales. It's all going to be hell. Now, you got to remember, I come from financial services for 30 years, right? And the thing is that I know is that every bank, every credit organization, when they go to give somebody some funding for a project or a house purchase, they always do an affordability calculation with an interest rate well above the current rate, right? So they are already building in these safeguards. Now, we're talking about 0.5%, 0.25% in terms of interest rate hikes. But these banks have been doing calculations where the margin in between current rate and their assessment rate might be 2 or 3%.
I think it's even big. I think it's even bigger in Australia. I think it's actually, after the Banking Royal Commission, it's almost 5 to 6%.
Right. So you know the banks are making sure that they are not going to be in a situation, because banks hate mortgagee sales, right? When people say, "Oh, the bank's going to put you in a mortgagee sale," the banks hate mortgagee sales, right? Because it is a prime instance where they probably shouldn't have given the person the money in the first place, or they haven't managed that person's situation very well up to that point. So you haven't helped them. You haven't put systems in place to get them out of this mess. You've taken them right to the point where there's just so much argy-bargy that you have to sell it. Now, that's not a good place to be. So banks are moving more and more away from that sort of situation now as much as they can. So we know with interest rate increases that we're getting, it's a big media beat up in terms of, people are going to the wall, and my but to this is this inflation rate, right?
Yeah.
And this is my but, because when you put interest rate increases alongside the inflation that both countries have at the moment, this is putting an absolute real pressure on the household budget. Right. So if I've got pressure on my household budget and I'm really struggling to pay for the core items that create the household to run successfully, all of a sudden I will start making different decisions with my discretionary income. And that's the bit where we just have to be conscious that there is going to be some of that. So that's real. But the perception is that we're going down the hill in a handcart and all hell's going to break loose here is just not realistic. And I think that beat up is what we've got to be conscious of.
Well, here's the thing. I think on the average Aussie mortgage, we're talking $180 a month extra on that interest rate rise.
Yeah.
And I think, $180 a month, yes, that can hurt some people, and that's, $2,000, $2 and a bit grand a year, right?
Yeah.
But in a country like Australia and New Zealand's the same, you can find $180 pretty easy. You can either change your phone plan, you can switch your energy providers, you can sell some stuff in your shed. If it's not 100%. Water damage, like it's been in your shed. Right, you can sell some stuff. I think what you're right about is the inflationary pressures on food in particular. I mean, we're talking $10 for an iceberg lettuce at the moment.
Mate, we were talking $21 for a 1 kg of cheese. Like, seriously, New Zealand is built on milk, right? We are a primary producer of one of the largest milk suppliers, for our size of country in the world, right? And we're in a situation where in our own supermarket, we're paying $21 for a kg of cheese. I mean, it's just nutty. But this is the inflationary pressure, right? So what I'm saying is, if you put inflationary pressure with the interest rate rises, yes, there will be some pressure and there will be some tension, but also we can't blow this out of proportion. We know the protections that are in place. And yes, we will be more discerning about where we spend our discretionary dollar. But it is a big, big thing we're going to be thinking about here, of just keeping it in perspective.
But if we put it in perspective, interest rates are still at 2.5%.
Totally.
Like on
totally.
So if your mortgage has got a 3 in front of it in Australia, you're probably still too high. Now, my mortgage, it was, I calculated that off 10%. The bank calculated it off 6%. I was like, no, I want another margin of safety. I want to put myself above the flood line. So the perception that this is going to knock out mortgages, maybe, I think fuel prices are probably going to do it worse. Food price, but I think people just need to be smarter. Like, okay, you might not be able to have all the fun that you had last year, but this is life. Life goes in cycles, and we've been through these before, and they don't last forever. They're momentary periods of time.
Yep, I agree. And I think the thing people have got to be really conscious of here is the discretionary spending. Over the last couple of years, mate, we've had very high discretionary spending. We've been able to spend a lot of money on a lot of surplus items around the environment because we haven't been traveling, B, we haven't had much else to spend on, and we have had government shelling out some coin into the marketplace to get us through. So that cash washing around has meant discretionary spending has been pretty easy. But now we've got to really tighten up.
Yeah, I mean, if you let yourself go loose at McDonald's, on a good one, you can blow $60 right there.
Yeah, exactly.
Like if you do it right. So, you can save that money. All right, number two. Totally. Number two on Perception Day is COVID. Now, COVID, look, I don't know why my graphics are sitting a little bit to the left today. The world's on a bit of a tilt. COVID. I think we're in two different boats here on COVID.
Yeah.
I think, I think New Zealand is more like Western Australia. And for those who are listening in, because we are on Spotify and Apple and Google Podcasts now, so we've got audiences all around the world. Western Australia was a state Western Australia was a state in the west of Australia. Of course it was, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's
really?
The big one. That's the big one over if you're looking at a map, it's over on the left. But what they actually did over there is they locked themselves in and said, we're not going to get COVID. We're going to hide from the world. And I think parts of New Zealand did that too. I don't think Auckland did.
Oh, the whole of New Zealand did, mate. Yep.
Locked away.
Yep.
And now, once we're all opened up and we're operating on the East Coast, we're all about, there's no COVID talk really. Maybe you have to wear a mask on a plane. That's about it.
Right.
Everyone's up and about. But Western Australia and New Zealand, they're now starting to cop the numbers. And the perception is that you're in for a dark, dark winter, and then you're going to get monkeypox, and then you're going to get fluvid or whatever, cove flu or whatever the mixture is, the mega bug. And, oh, my God, it's like, it's never ending. You know what? Life goes on.
And I'm saying that I look at what's happening on your East Coast, right? So you are really starting to get through all this. The headspaces we're moving on. Yes, we've got to wear a mask here and there. But you see, in New Zealand, we've actually got COVID. We've got teams away. I was in a automotive business yesterday. They've got about, 30 staff working in this dealership. 8 of them were away. Yeah, right? So that's 8 of them away with COVID.
So that's the disclaimer at the start. That's the
disclaimer. Yeah, totally.
But so we understand it, right? But if we're talking Perception Day, we're talking about, you know what, don't keep buying into this COVID forever narrative, right? I've had it. No. You've had it. It was terrible. Yep. You don't want it. But I actually don't think it was as easy to catch as they made out. I actually think it was pretty hard to catch.
All right, conspiracy kid. Right, so what I want you to think about here, though, is that we are within 2 to 3 months, mate. This thing, you'll come out the other side of it. And I think this is the piece that we've got to keep, this perception that it's going to be continuing on and it's all going to be, it's terrible. And, we just got to go.
Mutating and mutating.
Yeah. Like, stop it. We've just got to get through this period of time. We know it's bad. We know you've got the tools there. You've got the systems. You've got the processes. And yes, maybe your sales numbers are not going to be as good as you'd like them to be, but just accept that for a period of time. And then and get that thing moving again. So,
and I think the one thing that we don't hear, and this is part of Perception Day, is that businesses have adapted.
Yeah,
you can now do business meetings on Zoom. 3 years ago, people would have rolled their eyes at it and you go, "You don't respect me enough. I'm not going to do business with you because you only want to meet me digitally. You don't want to meet me face to face." Now, there's still value in meeting face to face. I think there's greater value in meeting face to face. Absolutely.
So the classic thing for me, mate.
Sorry, but we're in a world where you can survive and get things done like this over Zoom and stuff.
So like the amount of trainings that we do, like I would do probably 1 or 2 trainings per week where I tell them, they say, "Oh, Darren, someone's got COVID." I said, "Great, get a laptop in the room and put them on Zoom." Like, it's not an excuse for not being here. Like, let's get them in the room digitally. Let's make sure that they are getting the messages that we need to do. And this is just part of what we do now, right? It's just this is the nature of the way we work. And this whole old perception that, I've got COVID, I'm at home. Well, yep, that's great. But with the digital formats we've got, you can still be in the room. And we've got to keep pushing for that. So
that's it.
no, good topic, mate.
So COVID's not the end, and monkeypox. Oh my God! Don't even get me started on monkeypox.
Don't start me on that. I've got more jokes in that space.
Number 3, government change.
Yep. So you've had this.
We've had this, and you might be having it. When's your next election?
We better.
Oh no!
Next year.
Come on, Darren.
Next year.
We're bipartisan here. So government change, leading into the election, everyone's tried, the perception was don't make any business decisions, don't commit to anything. What happens if the government changes? What are the new government going to do if we've got a new government? What happens if it's a hung government? What happens if we've got independence? All these doomsday scenarios. Nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to happen. And guess what, Darren? Nothing happened.
Nothing happened.
They changed. And nothing happened. I went and had business meetings yesterday. I think I met 3 or 4 different business owners yesterday. I sat with them, and not one of them said, "Jonathan, I don't think we can progress because Anthony Albanese is now the Prime Minister of Australia." And
this is the... I know. This is the perception, right? This is the perception. We've changed government and all hell's going to break loose, right? It's all doom and gloom. Oh, my God. Guess what? You just go, come on.
Push through. Government change. And look, I think real estate suffers this the most. Don't auction your house on election day. Wait until the new government comes in because of first home buyer grants and this and that. And buyers are waiting to see what they're going to get. No, they're not. They find the house of their dreams. They want it. They're going to go for it. Whether they get it or not, it's a different story. Maybe the opportunity, maybe less. Maybe people are lazy and one trip out to the local primary school to put your ballot in is enough, and then they don't go to the auction. Maybe that's the only scenario. But at the end of the day, particularly in the countries that we live in, both sides of politics are pretty much the same. There's not a big...
Well, you're not going to get that massive change, are you? And this is the part where the beat up is and the perception is driven out of that media environment that all hell's going to break loose and the world's changing and rah, rah, rah. We all know. I mean, if we haven't learnt this by now, then we never will because, as we go time and time again, yes, you might get some sentiment change around the edges, but the core function of the markets, the way we work, the way we live our lives doesn't really change much at all. So, I mean, I just go, come on, stop it. Stop this. It's crazy.
Yeah. Snap that perception out of your head. This is perception day. We're breaking them right here. Snap it.
Right here. Right here. Today is that.
That's it. We've already said interest rates. Don't worry about it. Then they might go up gradually and they might continue to go up gradually till Christmas. But you know what? In comparison to what my parents were paying on their mortgages in relation to their wages, you're actually in front.
Totally.
There's been
Miles
tougher
ahead.
times.
Be way more conscious of your spending and just get a better plan.
That's right. We had the GFC in 2009, and look, some of my friends made more money than they've ever made in the GFC. It was a great opportunity. So the perception is not doom and gloom. You should see change as opportunity. I think that's a good way to look at it. All right, number 4. This is a bit of a challenge. This one. Work from home and productivity.
I'm saying this all the time, mate.
Mate, you know that for 6 weeks of the year, the city of Melbourne turns into New Zealand. Like Christchurch, right? It gets depressing and grey and wet. Like Christchurch is 24, Wellington. Like Wellington is every day of the year, right? Just this sad, depressing place where people have to paint different...
Be careful. That's my country you're having a crack at,
where
pal.
People have to... No, wait for this. This is funny. Wait, don't interrupt the punchline.
You can't beat Wellington on a good day.
I've got a punchline here. You're upsetting the joke. Wellington, this dark, gloomy, depressed place where people have to paint their doors red just to add some brightness to the world. Isn't that true? All their doors on their houses down in Wellington.
That's the punchline.
Yeah, that's the punchline. That was funny.
Oh, gee.
All my New Zealand friends laugh at
Well,
that
look,
because you
you
go to
can't beat
Wellington.
Wellington. You can't beat Wellington on a good day. It's only one of those days a year, but you can't beat it on that day, mate.
Look at my camera going out, folks. No, Wellington's beautiful. I love Wellington. I actually think it's amazing.
Right.
So,
Right.
work from home productivity in Melbourne, Australia. Not so much in Sydney and Brisbane, but particularly in Melbourne. No one's going back into the city. No one's going back to work. Everyone's like, nah, this is good. I like working from home. Now,
Yeah,
it was
that
good
might
enough.
be.
It was good enough to help businesses survive through COVID. We just sort of touched on that a little bit. But long term, how is this going to
This
affect?
perception that it's good. It's good. It's I mean, I can work more creatively. I'm better at home, and I haven't got the travel component, and I get that. But also this perception that I'm being as equally productive. I'm challenging that because I go, I'm not seeing it. I'm seeing that people are challenged by working at home. They're losing a lot of the opportunities about building team culture, creating those engagements with the team internally. And I think we've really got to get our heads around what this is all looking like. Because I think if we can get a handle on, hey, we've got to get teams back to the office. Yes, there is some advantage in working, one day a week at home and getting really focused on getting a lot done if that's what you can do. But let's just really get an understanding of what productivity word is actually means and what we need to do to get it.
You get to bring your dog to work.
Yeah, totally. It's so good.
If people are watching on YouTube, Darren's got it. There we go. He's hiding his dog from us. But yeah, this is the point, I think. The perception is that work from home is good. At what point does it start to tip over where human connections amongst teams erode? Because I think every day that you're apart from a team, a little grain of sand falls out of the relationship. All right?
Yep.
And then, good. Oh, look at that puppy, eh? Little grains fall out of the relationship, and eventually there's going to be a tipping point, whether that's a 20% reduction, so the relationship's only 80% as strong as it used to be. There's going to be a tipping point where productivity suffers. I think, I don't know, I don't have any data on it, it's just new. I know for a lot of businesses in the city, they're struggling because no one is in the city to buy stuff from them at their cafes and stuff at lunchtime. So...
Yeah, exactly. Yep. And we're having exactly the same thing here, mate. It is really causing some dramas. And I just think we've just got to start to get that back getting back working in a more productive environment and making sure that work productivity is a thing we're getting back again.
And I think it's really interesting. I go through this a little bit as a self-employed person.
Yeah.
You get into the zone where you make that macro, you start thinking macro, and you're like, gee, there's some really good jobs on offer at the moment. I could go in there and do that real easy, right?
Yeah.
And just not have to worry so much. Like, just get the job done and work. And you sort of think, oh, well, maybe the advantage would be that I'd get to be around more people. And so...
Yeah, totally.
And so then 5 minutes later, you get this sick feeling of like, oh, I'd have to have a boss. I'd have to be there at 9 o'clock in the morning or 8:30 in the morning, and I won't be back until 6. And they might call me after hours. And then what happens if I want to go for a walk the dog? And then and so all of a sudden, this is what these work from home people are getting. They've become comfortable at home now, and it's like, I'm safe in my little.
I don't want to go back. I want to go back to work. I don't want to go back to the office.
Outside. It's raining. I've got to walk from the train station to the office, but it's raining. I've got to deal with humans. Like, who's going to catch like public transport?
So stop, Jonathan, stop. Write this down, because for our next episode, we are doing the self-employed conundrum. Yep. Because this is the thing, like all the stuff that you just said to me then about getting a job or being self-employed, that's what we're going to talk about next time.
The pros
because we deal with this every day, mate, every day. And I think it's such a good topic we need to talk about. So let's put that down for next time. So don't miss the next episode, because it really is a cracker.
Well, I had a great day yesterday as self-employed, but I'm not going to blow. I'm going to save it. But Yeah, it was interesting. It was, but it was a couple of days in the making of motivating myself to get up and about. So we'll
Yeah.
bring that one up next time. So
So
right
perception
for
day.
number 5, perception day.
Yep.
Final one is market change. We know in real estate that they always talk about market change. It is a very popular topic across mainstream media, talkback radio, even self-proclaimed industry influencers. And I think if we go back
Yep.
to the comment about the banks, real estate agents make money on transactions too.
Yep.
And so market
You see,
change presents different things, different challenges for different people, I think, depending on your ability.
yeah, it does, but also understand this: the market changes, full stop.
Yeah.
Right? It's just this is
When
what
doesn't it
happens. It goes
change?
up, it goes down. It's been changing for 1,000 years, and guess what? It's
Yeah.
going to change for another 1,000. We know real estate goes through a cycle. We know the economy goes through a cycle, and we just have to realize that this whole thing about beating it up and beating it down, and oh my god, the world's ending. Oh, stop it! Like, how many times do we talk ourselves into a GFC disaster? And yes, it was tough. Yes, there were real challenges. Yes, there were people that really lost, some really big opportunities and had real challenges. But on the other side of it, the world changed again, right? So I just this whole perception about, oh my goodness, it's quietened off and the market's got. Of course it has. That was always going to happen. You can't have the last 3 years that we've had of millions of sales and the market driving your activity and it's all easy and I'll go and buy another Maserati because I've got some spare cash. It's just not like that, right? You just got to realize that the perception of this market is that we're going downhill and it's all going to be too hard. I just think we got to stop that and realize we just got to work differently.
Riddle me this, as the Joker would say, the Riddler would say in Batman. Riddle me this. Tell me a job where the market doesn't change. Like not even driving a train, because
All of them do. All of them do.
changes. Everything changes.
So just accept and stop this perception that we're going to talk ourselves into a drama and it's all hell. We got to say no. We just got to change that perception and go. Actually, this is just another opportunity for us to do things different and be different. And I just want to push that.
It surprises me when people are surprised with change.
Oh, does my head in. Don't start me.
It's like, well, everything's changing. Everything changes all the time. So if you're rigid and you're like, this is how I want it to be forever, well, you're going to be disappointed because happiness is expectations over reality, and reality is change.
So, Jonathan, my question to you is this. If it's perception day, what are the solutions around this space?
Perceptions is to, I think the key is you got to set your own narrative. I think you've really got to be stronger in what you let influence your opinions and your, the story that you're living out or the narrative that you're existing in. Don't be afraid to stand up to it and go, you know what? I'm not buying into that. That's not my reality.
Love it.
That's not my reality. That's not my world. I see it with real estate agents at the moment. Market doom and gloom. Oh, I just sold 2 houses on the weekend for records. Now, admittedly, they might not have had 30 people bidding at the auction like they did 4 months ago, but they still had 10 and they still set a record. So the other 20 who weren't there were probably just tire kickers anyway. So when do you get paid based on how many people you attract to an auction? You don't. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant.
How many do you actually need?
Yeah, well,
how many do you actually need?
2 will do.
You need 2 motivated buys. That's it.
Yeah, 2 will do. That's it.
So I think you're dead right about setting your own narrative. Can I give you a quick example of this? I've got a real estate agent who was coming at me going, Darren, the market's had it. That's toast. Going to be dead like this for 18 months. Oh my goodness, it's terrible. And I just asked him, where did you get this from? Oh, I'm listening to talkback radio and I've been watching the news. And I'm like, okay, so here's my thing. Stop listening to the news. Stop listening to talkback radio. Get yourself some motivational podcasts. Start thinking about some positive change you can make in your business and how you're going to engage with your customers at a higher engagement level to create opportunities, and stop listening to all the bollocks, right? You've got to set your own narrative and take control of that. So that first one, mate, that's a great one. Well done.
And
What about number two?
number two would be something
I
about
reckon it's don't let. I reckon it's don't let negativity take over. Hey,
Yeah, I think that sort of
because
ties into your narrative. This camera is really
yeah,
annoying me in and out of focus. It's going to have a. I'm going to speak to you later, camera. Um, I agree. I think don't be drawn into the negativity. I think that's part of setting your own narrative too. Be really aware of what the negative sources are. When was the last time that a guy on Talkback Radio was actually in real estate or selling cars or selling finance? What they don't.
totally,
They're journalists. And
exactly. And this is the
sometimes
part
they're
that I.
lucky to be journalists. Sometimes what they are is
Yep,
they're ex sports people who got paid an exorbitant amount of money from about the age of 17 or 18 and
yep,
never made a hard business decision in their lives. If you actually have a small business or a medium-sized business and you had that business in 2019 and you still have it today, pat on the back. You're a champion
yep,
because you've been through
yep,
something really tough that most
yep,
people wouldn't even, the safest thing you could do is go and get a full-time job during that time.
yep,
The bravest
yep.
thing you could do is keep running your own business. So give yourself some credit in the bank for being good at what you actually do.
So don't let negativity in your office. Don't let negativity in the environment that you're
Yeah.
in take over what you do.
Yeah.
Stop engaging with that stuff and just saying, look, it's not what we need to be focusing on here. We need to start talking about that positive stuff. So that's a good one.
That's right. Don't fuel the negativity.
No,
Right.
exactly.
And if
Yep,
you've got people in your office who do, and there are, you've got the
yep,
Karens in there. You've got the
yep,
Karens and the Darrens, right? They love it. They love the drama. The Karens and the Darrens. I think just
right.
damn that
I'll,
hit
I'll tell
that
you.
landed.
I'll tell you a story. I'll tell you a story off camera of that one. Okay, right. Number three, activity for me is key. Right, activity
Yeah,
is key. You've got to lift the activity when the
yeah,
market changes. Right, this
yeah.
is the key part. If the market's going down or the market's going up, you've got to increase your activity levels.
Yeah,
Talk to more people.
the best way out of a rut is to keep moving forward. And if you feel as though you're stuck, do something you haven't done before, and you'll
And
feel
go
good
and
about
go
it.
and talk to more people. Go out into the
Yeah,
market, increase the activity. You've got to change that. Absolutely.
yeah. Activity is massive, and there's so many things you can do across
Yep.
so many different platforms. Just look at your business. You don't have to make videos. You don't have to be crazy on social media. It can just be
No,
sending emails. It can be sending text
just
messages. It can be
make
picking
it.
up the
Yep.
phone. It can be going and meeting someone in the industry, in the space, and just having a conversation and just steer it and say, you know what, I'm looking for a little bit more, or
I
things are a
want to
bit
change
flat.
something. What do you do? Yep, that's right. Yep. What makes
Inherently,
you successful?
people, humans are wired to help other humans inherently.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Yep,
if
love
you're,
it.
unless of course you're on opposing sides, but not in terms of beliefs. Yes, there are extremes,
Number
but
four.
number four, understand your value. I think we're touching on
Yeah.
that before. Like if you've been through this business scenario and you're still surviving and you've still got staff. I mean, I I get down on my knees and almost worship people who've gone through this scenario with staff.
Yep.
And for them to
Yep. Totally.
be coming out of the other end of COVID or still in the COVID winter storm that you guys are heading into, and they've kept
Yep.
staff, and now they're because in Australia on the East Coast, COVID's gone. Like COVID's
Yep.
almost a dead topic, so they've got to find another disaster. And
You got it.
we know, Darren, there was a week there between COVID sort of being not getting the clicks anymore, and the interest rate announcement. There was a dead week there, and what popped up to fill the week? Monkeypox. Monkeypox. One person had monkeypox. It was like, what is going on? Like, don't buy into this. So understand your
Yep.
value. Um,
Can I just say the other thing I want you to think about here is also increase your value to a customer. Okay. So when the market changes and things are tougher, what you then have to do is work out and increase the value to your client base. So what can I add to my service proposition that makes the customer go, wow, that was cool? Because that was cool is the reason why they continue to use you. So I just want to push people around that. When things are tough, try and increase your value to your customer because it is recognized and that's how you get, again, market opportunity.
And I think that's really cool because what happens is that it's a lot harder to get a new customer than it is to keep
Oh,
servicing an existing one. So if you've got an existing customer and they
that is
know
all,
you and
mate.
trust you,
Yep.
it's a lot
Yep.
easier if you can come up with another way to add value to them, and you've
Yep.
already added value to them in the past. It's going to be
Yep.
much easier to get that in the door. It's going to be much
So
easier to
much
do
easier.
something else. Someone has a mastermind coming up. That one. Someone has a mastermind coming up. It's a great idea. I mean, it's yours. No problem, right? But it's an exact example of what we're talking about.
So this is the reason why, because a whole lot of people would say to me, Darren, can I work with you? Can you work with us? Can you work with me? Can you help me with my business? And the problem was I've only got so many hours in a week, and most of
Mm,
it's flying on a plane somewhere around New Zealand, right?
mm,
So I say to them, right, let's put together a mastermind group, and we actually meet up once a month, and I bring in some really, unique characters that are going to help bring a lot of extra content.
mm. Other one. That's it.
That guy,
We've got to
bring
work on
him
that.
in and as a guest, right? As a guest, to be able to actually bring this value to the teams, right? Because the more we can grow and work together on this stuff, the better the outcomes will be. So that there is already become, pretty successful already, which is great. But we want to be able to get people to realize coming together, sharing, developing those insights, and building better businesses is what it's about. So it's that giving mentality rather than that protection of my patch mentality. So it's been really good. Really
Yeah,
good.
so when
Thanks
you
for the
grow,
plug.
when we're talking about activity and value, it's not
Yeah.
necessarily with new clients. It's not
No,
necessarily the sick in the guts cold calling that people really, when they're already down, it's the last thing they want to
yeah,
do. Go back to your old clients, chat to them, ask them
totally.
how they are, because they're probably struggling too in times like now.
Give
What
them
can I do
opportunities.
to help you?
Yeah,
What's your pain at the moment? And then give yourself a week to come up with something that helps remove that pain. You don't have to answer it on
love
the
it.
phone. That's interesting. Really, you're struggling in that department? Oh, you need that help?
Yeah,
Oh, okay. No worries. Let me see what I can do. Let me have a think about
love
it.
it.
Bang, hang up, give yourself a week, design a solution to their problem.
So good.
That's business, right? The last thing,
Oh, the last one for me is this just a period of time, mate.
period of time.
You gotta have at the forefront of your mind, this is a moment in time, right?
Yeah.
And moment that we've just got to create that perception and that sort of that narrative that we're in control of. We know that we're going to have to go through a tougher period. That's true, but you just got to make sure that you control that and that we realize that we're only going to be going through this for a period of time and the market will change again. So we just have to head down and have a real clear plan about what we're doing.
It was funny yesterday. I spoke to two pretty entrepreneurial guys, and we spoke about the hype, and both of them said, I made my greatest gains in my business
Yep.
in the GFC,
Yep.
in the
That's it.
downtime." And
It
it was
teaches
because,
you more, man.
yeah, they just said, I knew it wasn't going to last. So rather
Yep.
than, as we said in the last episode, rather than retreating and retracting and hiding and putting yourself in a bunker just to weather the storm, they actually went against the market, against the
Yep.
narrative of mainstream media, because mainstream media is not in your business. Like, they're
Yep.
not doing what you do. They're in a completely different model. So, yeah, they've got their own agenda. They pushed themselves out there and made greater gains, created
Yep.
greater awareness around themselves, greater links and relationships, because they were calling and active and taking, as we said, greater activity, adding further
Yep.
value in times when most people were hiding away. And so that's how you can leapfrog. This is an opportunity, as tough as it sounds to ignore all the noise on the outside. This is actually
Yep.
probably one of the greatest opportunities in the next decade to
100%.
get ahead.
Great topic today, mate. I really, really think that this is such an important insight into where many of these businesses are at the moment. To be able to take this, apply it. Those 5 solutions being: set your own narrative, don't let negativity take over, be in control of that. Activity is key, so step up the level of activity.
Yeah.
Focus on the value to your customer and improving that. And lastly, that remember this is a period of time. This is a really important place to be able to get those solutions, help you step your business up, and make sure that you are really taking the opportunities that are present in the marketplace right now.
Yeah.
Great session, mate. Great topic.
Keep fighting, folks. It's only
All right.
Only rainbows and sunshine around the corner.
You bet.
That's it.
Thanks, mate. Good to see you, boy.
Peace.
Take care. We'll see you soon.
Thank you, guys.